The top 20 comic book covers of the year 2020. Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, comic book fan. 2020 was a pretty bad year for everyone, but it was a pretty good year for comic books. This video, I'm counting down the top 20 comic book covers that came out in the year 2020. This is the latest video in my ongoing yearly top list of the covers. So we've got the 20 covers of 2020. Go back and watch the top 19 covers of 2019, and then go back and watch the top 2018 covers, and then the top 2017 covers. So I've been doing it a little while. Now, there's been so many amazing comics, so many amazing covers that have come out in 2020. How am I going to possibly pick only 20? I'm going to pick 20 by cheating, and that is because I'm going to group together a variety of types of covers to count them as one. So number 17 might have like 3 different covers, but it's still number 17, so don't worry about the math. It's the top 20, but don't worry about the math. So this is all about just the covers, not the actual plot and so forth. You're still encouraged to check out the story yourself if you like the plot and so forth. Check out my various reviews that I do every single week on various comics. Check out my comic hauls, where I also give you some synopses of comics that I picked up at the end of every single month. And I'm also doing a lot of shorts, a lot of 1-minute long videos all about comics every single week. Comics that are coming out soon, comics that are coming out this week, and so forth. A lot of things about comics. And I'm going to continue to do stuff about comics in the year 2021, but for the moment, let's talk about the top 20 covers in the year 2020. Alright, let's get started with a couple of 80-page giants. We've got Wonder Woman 750 by Adam Hughes, amazing cover. I like the contrast between a realistic Wonder Woman and a very cartoony Bullet Sparks, that's pretty cool. And then we've got the Robin 80th Anniversary. This is 100 pages. This is by Derek Chu. We've got a very dynamic Stephanie Brown coming at you, ready to beat you up. Excellent dynamic pose and great colorization. The next picks are some Rick and Morty comics. I really liked the Emmett Helen variant cover to Rick and Morty Ever After. It's almost monochromatic with a few splashes of red. Some really evil-looking crows, and it really gets you into the idea of a fairy tale story, contrasting with Angela Trizino's cover of Bird Person #1. Just this freaking epic cover, so many colors, such amazing poses. This is more dynamic than Rick and Morty has ever been, and this cover just rocks. On a nostalgia trip, I've got to give it up for Batman: The Adventures Continue. I watched Batman the Animated Series back in the day. I loved it so much. Paul Dini and Bruce Timm were amazing. And it was very cool to see, just about 30 years later, the adventures continue. I've got here the Dave Johnson cover, which really feels like something from the original show. And I've got the second printing with slightly different colors. A very imposing Batman, his rogues gallery in the building, excellent perspective, the dark deco style of it all. There were many Teen Titans covers that I loved. Here's a couple to pick from. Issue 37 features a Carrie Randolph cover, very dynamic. I love the sort of like rainbow color palette swirling all around Damian Wayne, aka Robin. We've got all of the characters that were part of the Teen Titans at that point in the plot. So colorful, so dynamic. Crush looks as cool as ever. And then in contrast with issue 38, very different. Everyone's posing at the top of Titan's Tower. Crush is taking center stage, and then all of the other Titans that were on the team. Great Worm's Eye View. Have you been reading Mirka Andolfo's Mercy? This has been an interesting series that combines horror and mystery. Andolfo's interior art is tremendous, some of the best I've seen, but these covers that I picked here, one is a cosplay cover. Always go for the cosplay covers. And the other covers give you a sort of sense of dread, either subtly or very overtly, with all of the weird creatures and tentacles and just like scary stuff that this story is all about. Half nostalgia, half modern, we go with Spider-Man 2099 and Doom 2099. What's old is new, what is future is past, what is past is present, or something like that. We have the characters that launched the Marvel 2099 universe back in the 90s. I remember reading these original 2099 titles back in the 90s and loving them, and these one-shots were a really cool reintroduction to those classic characters of the future. Martin Simmons gives us some terrifying cover art for the autumnal. I've got issue number 1. Just a horrific cover with like body horror, some sort of violence happening with nature, juxtaposition of terror plus nature. And the foil cover is also really cool. This is a second print foil cover for Local Comic Shop Day. Make sure you support your local comic shops, especially when they put out weird, cool, interesting comics. Let's give Spawn a shot on the list. Todd McFarlane has started to do more Spawn covers after reaching 300 issues of his seminal work. 300 issues of a creator-owned comic book. Congrats to Todd. We've got such various covers that depict Gunslinger Spawn, tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and a tribute to local comic shops, hard hit during the pandemic, but there were many initiatives that helped keep things going. Plus, we also had Spawn plus Spider-Man on the cover of a, quote, comic book for the first time in a long time, drawn by Todd McFarlane as part of the Overstreet Comic Book Guide, the 50th anniversary. Do you miss The Walking Dead? Well, here was another zombie epic that came out, this one from AWA Upshot, Year Zero. This is a wraparound cover by Mike Deodato Jr., which I loved. And I also loved the Carrie Andrews cover. Very evocative, very terrifying, just trail of zombies coming at you, clinging to the chopper that you're trying to get away from with. Just epic. This was for Volume 2. The hostess with the mostest makes the list, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Her 12-issue series was amazing. Each one had a photo cover. I tried to pick up the photo covers every single time that I could. The Halloween cover is just epic. It's Elvira in her natural habitat. And then the final cover of the series just has a classic Elvira pose in late-night scary movie black and white. On the complete other end of photo covers, we have a 16-bit inspired cover style by Christina Antoinette Neofotisto. She did the covers for Read Only Memories, the variant covers. These give me a great sense of this sort of pixel art, 16-bit style from a bygone era back in my day. The interiors are quite different, but also beautiful. These covers really stood out when I saw them on the shelves. Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, had yet another series. And in the latest series, we've got a few very cool covers. We've got a Greg Land cover, wonderful expression by Gwen Stacy, a little bit of a collage mishmash sort of cover, pretty fun. I like the blue tones overall. Contrasting with a Great Paul Pope cover for issue number 7, reminding you of her acrobatic talents. I love the orange colors in this cover, contrasting with the black part of Ghost Spider's outfit and the white. Mirka Andolfo makes the list again, this time for her Unsacred series. I actually liked the plot of Unsacred more than Mercy. It's a fun, cute, sexy relationship comic book between a devil and an angel, and these covers are just wonderful. There's a variety of guest artists that worked on them, but I picked the Andolfo covers. We've got a Gustav Klimt inspired cover. We've got a really sexy cosplay Kitty Neko ears cover. And then the final issue of the series that really showcases the comedy and the sexy aspect of Unsacred. Another Ablaze comic book, we've got The Sumerian. These are public domain Conan comics that are not titled Conan on the cover, but we know who it is. Steve Morris does the cover to Red Nails #1. One of the variant covers, lots of variant covers to enjoy, with Valeria and Conan ready to battle some big old beasties. Mirka Andolfo did the variant cover for Queen of the Black Coast. I'm so used to seeing Andolfo create either furry characters or devil characters. To see a human character is a little different, but still very cool. And lastly, we've got Queen of the Black Coast #2 with Pierre Alari art. A very stylized, very mannered design to the characters. We've got Belit, Queen of the Black Coast, and Conan. Let's give Batman some love. I loved this Jorge Jimenez Batman 90 cover. There's Batman and Catwoman atop a building in the rain, and excellent contrast with the cool and bright colors. This is in the aftermath of a big important plot point. The Ben Oliver cover to Batman The Joker Warzone shows the twisted duality between the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime. Did you manage to get your hands on Death Metal Rise of the New God variant cover by Boss Logic? I did. It was just there on the shelf and I picked it up. Should have gotten more than one. But just a beautiful, epic cover that is, on the one hand, simple, but powerful. Just stark black and red. Speaking of just walking into the shop and picking it up off the shelf, how about Batgirl #50, the final issue? Giant-sized final issue. I happened to get this one, and it's got a great Joshua Middleton cover. I always like his covers. This one feels like a great movie poster to an amazing film that I really want to see. Speaking of movie poster, how about this Deceased Unkillables #1 with an It homage? We've got an unliving Wonder Woman on the cover. It's interesting how it's got the stark white areas and then the bloody red areas with her horrific stare. That's by Yasmin Putri. Even more horrific is the zombified cheetah. This one's by Francesco Mattina. I always like his stuff. Very realistic, very powerful. And this one just adds to the horror of what this series is. On to some Spider-Man books. We'll start with Phil Noto. This is the Marvel's X variant. I love this cover. Very simple background, but it's all about the main character. It gives me a sense of the Venomized or Carnageized type of covers. Very cool. Spider-Woman makes a couple of appearances on the Spider-Man comic. We've got one by Ryan Brown and Tony Daniel. So Jessica Drew started a brand new series again, and she cameoed on a bunch of other characters' covers. In-Hyuk Lee has been creating a lot of great covers that I really enjoy. Here we've got Amazing Spider-Man #50 with the Green Goblin. It's a mixture of realism, cartooniness, computer-generated. Very enjoyable. And lastly, on the other end of things, a much more simplified style in Bruce Timm. He did a variant cover for the 850th issue of Amazing Spider-Man. That feels very 60s with Mary Jane dancing in the club. Gwen Stacy's not amused. Next up, a collection of Chris Pirillo covers for Deja Thoris. I think Pirillo is an example of the very realistic artists that we have nowadays, with antecedents in Joe Jusko, Boris Vallejo, Julie Bell, Olivia. It's an excellent tradition that creates realistic versions of these fantastical characters. This one is by Kunka, but it's still in that vein of hyperrealism added to fantastical characters. The next group is a bunch of creator-owned Image comics. Andrew Robinson made a great Grindhouse-esque Scumbag #1 cover. Really gives you a sense of the grunginess of this comic. Martin Simmons does amazing work on the Department of Truth. The covers and the interiors, they're very weird, visceral X-Files-esque. Rachel and Terry Dodson did the covers and interiors to Adventure Man. This husband and wife team is my favorite duo in all of comicdom. Stejepan Sejic interpreted the classic Darkness comic with the 25th anniversary commemorative edition variant cover. Sana Takeda continues her work on Monstress. Here we have Monstress Talk Stories 1 of 2, the foil local comic shop day covers. This is the cutest cover to the saddest comic you'll ever read. Jeff Stokely does the interiors and some of the covers for the Ludocrats, a very cartoony style that I aspire to do myself. Fun fact, there are various April Fool's variant covers. And lastly is the latest issue of Invincible. Pretty Violent. This is a Ryan Ottley cover that depicts Gamma Ray in a much more realistic and extremely violent way compared to Shin Young's much cuter and cartoonier but equally violent interiors. She's holding its eyeball. Alright, pretty exciting. What is the number one cover of 2020? Let's get to that one moment, but I've got an honorable mention. I'm going to go with the Stranger Things Dungeons & Dragons comic here from Dark Horse and IDW. So I love these covers because they feature a great portrait of the character plus their Dungeons & Dragons character, and then we've got one for every single character. Dustin is amazing. So there's of course 4 of them. It's a 4-issue limited series. The 4 main characters, the 4 boys, they get their own cover. And this is going to be an honorable mention runner-up before we go into number 1 comic book of the year. I'm going here for runner-up, Stranger Things versus Dungeons & Dragons 1 through 4. The top of the list goes to Peach Momoko, the breakout artist of 2020, even though she's been around for a few years. Her covers have graced so many books from every publisher. We've got a Teen Titans cover. We've got a Deceased Dead Planet cover, the 4th print, featuring Poison Ivy. We've got a cover for IDW for The Crow Leith with Null Narcos, and Usagi Yojimbo Wanderer's Road. Whatever type of cover she creates, I'm there for. And that was my top 20 list. What do you think? What did you like? What did you not like? What did I miss? Tell me all about it in the comments. Like I said, so many great comics came out this year. Stories, plots, art, covers, etc. It's hard to keep up. So don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. Every single week I do comic book reviews, shorts, less than a minute long, where I tell you comics that are coming soon, longer form comic hauls, where I talk about many comics that I got this particular month, and everything in between, top lists, and so forth. It's all about comic books on this channel, and Magic the Gathering, and some of my other hobbies. So don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, battle the Minotaur, be alerted to everything that I do. I would appreciate if you liked or commented or shared this video. It really helps. And maybe even consider going over to Patreon, patreon.com/VMCampos. For as little as $1, you can be part of the VMC crew, where you will get to unlock exclusive things on Patreon, such as giveaways and more. At the $2 range, I'll actually mail you some comic books in appreciation for joining the crew, for pledging, for keeping me going as a creator. Creators like us really love to get that notification on Patreon when a brand new patron joins. And you can join us for as little as $1. You unlock exclusive stuff, and you also give us a nice warm feeling deep in our hearts. If you can't pledge at the moment, no worries. Simply follow for free on Patreon to be alerted to everything that I do on YouTube, on the podcast, on live streams, giveaways, etc. But consider pledging at $1 and up. Or at the very least, make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. This has been the top 20 covers of 2020. I'm VM Campos, and I'll see you next year in the year 2021 for more amazing comic books.